Okay, so I left you with a cliffhanger at the end of the last segment. What happens if a researcher's findings contradict the existing paradigm, the thing that everybody else is accepting? For example, again, I'm using some theories in the place of paradigms. Um, Freud's theory was pretty well accepted, and it certainly was well accepted among psychoanalysts. But then along comes Jung, who says, well, I don't think that there's just a personal unconscious like you think there is, Freud. I think there's a personal unconscious and a collective unconscious. Ooh. Jung said something different from Freud. What happened? Pavlov said that in classical conditioning, the presentation of the conditioned stimulus must be right before the presentation of the unconditioned stimulus in order for the learner to make the association. And then here comes Garcia, who says you can develop a taste aversion when the taste happens up to 2 days before getting sick happens. Oh, 2 days is not right before. Taste is the conditioned stimulus, getting sick is the unconditioned stimulus. But you can make the association even though that's 2 days apart. Oh no, what do we do? Right? Jung said something beyond Freud. Garcia discovered something beyond what Pavlov said. What happens? Well, first thing I can tell you for sure is that the person who generated contradictory outcomes is usually excommunicated from the group. Freud told Jung he did not need to come to the coffee klatch anymore. We did not want to hear from you because Jung would not give up his idea of the collective unconscious. So the first thing that happens oftentimes is you get rejected. Poor Garcia, it took him 7 years to get his study published that showed evidence of the development of taste aversions. People accused him of falsifying his data. People accused him of not understanding classical conditioning, all sorts of things. So the first thing that happens when a researcher finds an outcome that's contradictory is that everybody kind of attacks that researcher. When I was a kid, back in the dinosaurs were still alive. Back when I was a kid, someone, and I apologize to the paleontologist whose name I can't remember, asserted that the dinosaurs died out as a result of a meteor hitting the earth and causing basically a global winter as all this dust and stuff was in the atmosphere. And that paleontologist was harassed and heckled at conventions, and everybody said that he was nuts until they all started to realize he might have been right. And that's what ultimately happened with Jung and with Garcia too, is that people started to realize that they might have had a point. Garcia for sure. Ultimately, the data supported everything that he said, and now you all have a taste aversion. I'll bet you all have a taste aversion to something, and to find out that it was probably because it got paired with, the taste got paired with getting sick, even though the thing isn't really what made you sick. You might still develop a taste aversion. It's all very complex, but it's like, oh, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that explains why I have taste aversions. Jung, as he explained his ideas about the collective unconscious, it made more and more sense. In fact, for a lot of people, Jung's theories make more sense than Freud's do. So a lot of times over time, a lot of times after the death of the researcher, people start to realize that the researcher might have had a good idea, or the theorist might have had a good idea. So a lot of times we go ahead and attack the messenger. The fact that people are generating new interpretations, though, can sometimes weaken the original theory. And I think that's why so many times the originator of the theory gets really defensive if a new theory comes along that tries to account for something new or that contradicts the paradigm. They get defensive because they know, hey, you're undermining my theory. And it's possible that my theory is going to get overridden altogether thanks to you and your stupid new data. Usually, though, the new theory is not the new dominant theory. Usually, the old theory finds a way to incorporate the new theory's contents. And if you think about it, more of you know who Freud is than know who Jung is. More of you know who Pavlov is than know who Garcia is. The new theory hardly ever becomes the dominant theory. It oftentimes gets subsumed into the original theory. Occasionally with something like quantum physics, it'll supplant the original theory, but a lot of times individual researchers' findings get absorbed into the existing theory. Okay, now back to our favorite topic of pseudoscience. One of the things that pseudoscientists would like us to believe is that science is just great ideas popping into people's heads. Science through insight. The thing about implying that science is a function of insight is that it kind of implies that we could all just be sitting around and then the next great scientific discovery could just pop into our heads. That's not how science works. There's a long history of believing that scientists just have ideas pop into their heads. There's a really poorly videotaped off the TV link on YouTube explaining how Kekula supposedly figured out the structure of benzene in a dream. One of my students told me that their chemistry teacher said that the dream was a drug-induced dream, but I don't know whether that's true or not. But the idea is that Ernest Kekula supposedly dreamed, well, in a dream he came up with a visualization that when he woke up he interpreted as the structure of benzene. Einstein claims that he fell asleep one night, and maybe it was one of his frequent naps, I'm not sure. Anyway, in a nap or something, he dreamed about riding on a wave of light, and that's when he realized that light is a wave and has matter, or else he couldn't have ridden on it, right? The idea of science through insight is that you discover something in an aha moment. So I wake up from a dream and I suddenly realize. And Albert Einstein kind of fanned the flames of that. I started the conversation with him in the following way. Recently I've been working on a difficult problem. Today I come here to do battle against that problem with you. We discussed every aspect of this problem. Then suddenly I understood where the key to this problem lay. Next day I came back to him again and said to him without even saying hello, "Thank you. I have completely solved the problem." So even Einstein sort of encouraged people to believe that just the solution pops into his head, and the truth is it's a step-by-step process. I mean, part of why he went to whoever him is in that story is that he knew that that person would help to get him thinking about new steps to consider, new factors to throw in that maybe he'd been blocking out of his consciousness or something. In reality, science is step by step. There's no aha, there's no insight, there's no fall asleep and all the solutions will come to you. This is a quote from another point in that same book on how I discovered special relativity, and he says, actually I was led to it by steps arising from the individual laws derived from experience. So even as he tried to imply that he figured out special relativity through some kind of insight, Einstein goes on to point out that the thing is, he's been working hard, step by step, trying to figure out the solutions to these problems. So pseudoscience would like us to think that science is, the special purview of certain people who have insight. Pseudoscientists always want us to ignore previous data. For pseudoscientists, they think we should just go from one idea to another idea to another idea without ever tying it together, without following the principle of connectivity. That paradigms should shift from, okay, we had the old theory that could explain the old data. Now I have a new theory that can explain new data. Let's jump on its bandwagon. We don't worry about the fact that the new theory can't explain the old data. We just jump on the new theory's bandwagon because it's the new thing. So we can have willy-nilly paradigm shifts in the pseudoscientific world. Pseudoscience also says that we should declare a whole new reality. It's part of that whole, just let's go ahead and get onto this new theory and not worry about the fact that we can't explain the old data. Let's declare a new reality. I had a student once who told me that I had been lecturing in class on identical versus fraternal twins. And then she said, what about twins who are identical on the mom's side, but fraternal on the dad's side. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, I don't know. I'll ask the mom again because it was somebody who she nannies for. So she comes back the next day and she says, well, the twins are polar body twins. So I said, what are you talking about? I know that there are a lot of different kinds of twins in the world, but polar body, I don't know what you're talking about. So I went to Wikipedia, which is the font of all great knowledge, right? But even Wikipedia is careful to say polar body twinning is a hypothesized form of twinning in meiosis, where one or more polar bodies do not disintegrate and are fertilized by sperm. Twinning would occur in principle if the egg cell and a polar body were both fertilized by separate sperms. However, even if fertilization occurs, further development would not usually occur because the zygote formed by the fusion of the sperm and the polar body would not have enough cytoplasm or stored nutrients to feed the developing embryo. So the mom of these twins must have gotten the impression that polar body twinning is a valid thing and that we should all ignore what we understand about genetics in our effort to make her twins be special and different kinds of twins. It's very pseudoscientific of her. Her twins are probably just regular fraternal twins. They probably are just two eggs that got fertilized by two sperm, and they're in fact fraternal twins. But it's more fun to say new reality, new kind of twin, new explanation of how the world works, and just go ahead and ignore previous data. Ignore trying to connect this new finding to existing things that we've known before. All right, let's go ahead and take a little break, and we'll come back and belabor Occam's razor some more.